So that.
I'd like to call to order regular monthly meeting of the Grayson County Board of Supervisors for July the 14th, 2022. Good to have everyone in attendance here today. Mr. Smith, if you would lead us in the invocation, followed by the pledge, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pray. Father, thank you for the day that's been given to live and enjoy work here in Grayson County. We pray a special blessing on our county administrator. This will be his last monthly meeting. We pray that he has many happy years. Thank you for how you bless this county. Your presence continue to be upon us in this board. It's in your name we pray. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. And we'll remind everyone of the decorum that is on the back of the agenda. And for the public, I would let you know that Mr. Fan is in attendance at a Valor's meeting in Richmond related to county business and will not be able to attend. And we do have Mr. Anderson, Supervisor Anderson is attending via Zoom. So we do have a quorum. One matter before we do, I would ask for the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda. Would ask for the addition amendment would be made to old business. Jada Black will give us an update on the abandonment of Greenhouse Road and Whitewater Road. And other than that would be the only amendments suggested by the chair. This time we entertain a motion to accept the agenda and consent agenda. Okay, have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. I also aye. Okay. Which would then lead us to our first order of business under reports, presentations, and requests. Mr. Keith Andrews with the Clean River Month, which is the month of August, and also president of the New River Wildlife Club. Good to have you.
Thank you. All right. Well, thanks again for what you came up with last year. And just to refresh people's memories that March, April, where the board came up with a proclamation declaring August on an ongoing basis as Clean River Month in Grayson County. And in that proclamation, there are some statements that I think are very important to keep in mind as we go forward. One of them was where we will strive to protect the new in our county as we build the next generation of stewards who will forward. And I think that's important because it's not only protection means keeping it clean, which everybody thinks about, go get tires and such, but it also talks about water quality. It also talks about a number of other issues as far as protecting them. But more importantly is the next generation going forward, who's going to take care of it. Because I think if you take a look at the Wildlife Conservation Club and you look at some of the other groups that are participating and putting on Clean River aspects, many of us are escapees from the geriatric ward. So we need the next generation of people to come about. And so a lot of our things center around that as well. The board made 5 commitments to make this thing go forward. We want to work with organizations to come up with developmental programs so that we can be better educated about what's needed in the river. Develop an overall communication and involvement program where we can get people involved in it. encourage property owners that have property on the river to do it on their own as opposed to waiting for other groups to do it. So that. And also provide promotional materials, logistics support for organizations that do in-river type of cleanups. But then also, how do you promote people that are going down there on the weekend and such, so that they take care of things as they come across them. So those statements at the beginning, plus those 5 commitments, are the things that we're really going to hang this thing on going forward. Quickly, as far as results for last year, first off, it was a slow start, trying to get this thing going. Probably some missteps, and I would say Tracy probably needed some steel toe shoes at times dealing with me, and I apologize for that. But anyway, we did have 6 river cleanups with 68 participants, 2 informational programs where you got 20 more people to. There are 7 groups, civic and various agencies, that really took this to heart. We had 4 vendors and liveries who participated, and then we did take out 231 tires last year. A lot of other type of debris, including the sheriff's daughter finding a rifle and a shotgun in the river. How that tied together, I don't know, but anyway. So we had that. We had some anecdotal evidence of new stewards. We had a family that we came across, we were getting ready to kayak, and we were putting the various places up to take out materials and such, and basically asked them, do you want to collect some? Because they had the family there in the kayak. Next Monday, Jason Harris, our CPO, gets a call saying, hey, I got 2 bags of stuff. The kids had a blast. It was like a scavenger hunt. That's the type of anecdotal evidence that we have to have. PT Solutions, who my wife and I have lifetime membership in for various surgeries that we keep. Anyway, I'm not trying to be comedic. I mean, it's just the way it is, right? But they formed a team that are actually committed to doing this on a regular basis, participating in cleanup. So that's good stuff. One of my neighbors who had never participated went through a cleanup effort and really got involved in the sense that earlier this spring, he had to go by the DWR site up at the 58 Bridge and notice somebody dumped a load of shingles next to the creek that feeds in there. Now, normally he just maybe gripe about it, but he stepped forward, reported it. My understanding, there's still an investigation ongoing in. That's stewardship. And also my neighbors, there's 7 of us that participated in cleaning up the Little River last year. We took out a hot water heater and a number of other things. And I don't know if you know Tracy Goodman from the standpoint of the auctioneer and such, but then also a neighbor called Tommy Wright and myself. We're fairly short. And it was funny because there'd be places, as low as water was last year in the Little River, we found places that we could go over our head. So you're seeing hats float down the river from people being submerged. And so it's some fun things there. So I just bring that up. And one recent thing as far as stewardship, as well as making things happen. We utilized the folks at the New River Campground at the bridge, that they got involved handing out bags to various people. And actually the other week I was down there actually scheduling to get shuffled up to the river to do a local kayaking trip. I said, when are we going to get the bags? We're having people already asking, when are we going to get the bags? So we have some of our normal campers who last year wore out their bags because every time they took a trip, they were getting stuff out of the river. So that's the type of things. With any effort like this, I think you do need to have kind of a debrief at the end where you're trying to say, all right, what can we do better? And from that, and appreciate the Mike because he actually participated in it. We talked about starting earlier. We talked about the need to use all different types of communication channels, just not social media. Because so many landowners on river frontage are not residents of Grayson County. There are a lot of North Carolina people, a lot of people from other counties that come up here because it's such a beautiful place to be. So how do you get them involved in such as that and communicate with them? So we needed all use of different channels. We definitely came up with the need to recognize groups, and that's one of the things that Mike came up with. So I have developed a certificate. We have to get that going through the process. come up with a better way to promote it. And for those who attended the county's Independence Day parade, I think you saw a nice float that definitely communicated what we're trying to do. One thing that we're trying to do and still need to do is how can we use the tax mailing information to get information to all the property owners? We still need to work through that. And then finally, working through, again, stewardship. I think we did a good job with Oak Hill Academy because they've done 2 different additional efforts on their part, but we have difficulty getting GALACs and Grayson County schools involved in the process. So we need to continue there. So quickly, some of the happenings so far in 2022. From some of the things that we put together, we've had various individuals that went to the New River Conservancy Symposium, which they do every 2 years. And they came back with a wealth of energy and a wealth of knowledge that they want to put forward. So we have that. Again, I mentioned that there was a school project earlier in the spring with Oak Hill Academy, which is more like streamside restoration. Working with DWR, we put on an informational but also a hands-on clinic on fish of the new, in which DWR did a fish stocking at our club. And we had a kind of a pool set up where you could put the fish in there. We had kids around that. Kids actually getting able to hold fish and such as that. But it also went over water quality, importance of water quality to the fisheries that we have in Grayson County. So that type of information. We also have approval from Department of Wildlife Resources to put up 2 bag stands at 2 different sites where weekend kayakers, canoers can get one of the bags and have it right there, as opposed to say, all right, you got to go to this livery or you have to come to the county offices to get a bag. You put it there, we'll see how that works and see if that lets us put it at all the various locations going forward. We do have involvement of some new groups. Blue Ridge Discovery Center has just completed last week their annual expedition. They have a week-long expedition where they'll take 12, 13 kids on the river for around 4 days and such as that. And they took some of the bags along, and one day they did snorkeling in the river, and they got a couple bags of stuff by snorkeling. So pretty good aspect there. Oak Hill Academy, I haven't heard back the results, but they had a cleanup effort on July 9th. And you may say, all right, that's not in August. Well, some of these things are going to take place when they got to take place, and that's fine. In September, the Legends of Grayson want to do cleanup over at the falls, where that again feeds into the New River. So cleanup effort there. So we got a lot of things going on. There's a schedule of various cleanup activities taking place every weekend in the month of August. So have that. So that's a challenge I'd like to make to anybody, because if somebody as decrepit as myself can get in the river, you might note that 2 weeks after we did the last cleanup, I did have this knee replaced. I don't know if it's cause and effect, but anyway, it was there, and I'll be in the river again this year. So I challenge you because it gives you a really appreciation. And we also found out with many of the groups that did this for the first time, their memberships are really wanting to do it the second time. More people are coming out of the woodwork trying to say we can get involved with this. Now, I would also have some recommendations going forward. There are other things that people can get involved with. And to the board, I would say we're going to try to have another debrief in September after this year, again, to find out what we can do better. You know, Bill, you're leaving, but there's going to be somebody that follows you. I'm sure of that. And what I would encourage is, as you bring on a new leadership team, and yeah, you know, as you bring on a different leadership team, I think that we need to probably have a working session on how to get things done better and build on what good things we've already done. I think you need to include some of the supporting groups. I think there are other county departments, particularly now that you've got the county is actually going to have frontage on the New River, that Dagon Parks and Recreation needs to get involved with this effort, and other departments as well. Yeah. I also think that, again, going back to the group that went up to the symposium, we've had an offer from Jarvis County, which has been doing this now for 15 years, that they would be more than willing to come down and discuss some of the things they've done. Now, I think we're doing some things that they can learn from, but also let's get in some more knowledge that we can make this go forward even more so. So I think we've got a good year planned. I think we can use anybody and everybody. And with that, I thank you for your time, and let's clean the river. Okay. Thank you much.
Thank you. And on the event, you said there was some scheduled events in the month of August. Is there any way we could get those to the
Yes.
county administrator's office, so we can post that on our?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Next, Ms. Stacy Rivers, Grayson County Registrar, with an update on election officials.
Since last time, we've gained some people and we've lost a few people. I went back and just started over again, and I've reworked everything. I sent out an email to all of our officers of election asking them, are you going to work outside your home for a place? And if so, how far are you willing to go? Anybody Grayson, just a agency precinct, some miles or what have you. Still have just a handful of folks that I have not gotten responses for. Just looking for November's election. We still need at least one person in Flat Ridge, and we still need 2 people at Troutdale. And I am waiting to hear back from a couple of folks at Fairview and Mountain Wilson. The people I'm waiting to hear from, they've worked before, so I kind of expect that they will, but I don't have a definite anything from them yet. So I'm waiting on that. And we need alternates. So we have enough for bare minimum for the jobs that everybody will have, but we don't have any alternates should somebody say, you know, this has come up and I can't work. So we do need, and that's just, you know, anywhere in the county as far as the alternates go. So anybody that, you know, like usual, anybody that you know that's interested, you know, just share it with us, and they can come by, or we can mail paperwork out to them, or what have you. So we had talked about increasing the pay for the officers of election for some incentive for the ones that are there to keep going and to bring some new folks in. So the electoral board met, and what we would like to do is have everybody at a minimum of $15 an hour. And we're basing that number on on election day, 15-hour day. So we're looking at increasing the pay for our regular officers of election from $150 to $225 for election day. And then it's plus mileage for coming to training, and for if you're working outside your home polling place, they get mileage for going outside of their door. And then for precinct chiefs, because they do have more responsibilities, they're making more trips, have some additional training, that sort of thing, $275 for each of our precinct chiefs. They were at 200, so we're looking at them to 275. So as far as budget money, we had submitted a number, and then Lisa Gayhart, the finance director, had added 10,000 to that. In order to hit the numbers that we would like to go with, that we would need to ask for an additional 10,000. And that's not all just pay. Some of that is extra for mileage, because we're going to have more people that are going outside their normal polling location. So that's the numbers that we came up for that. And I don't know how you go about yaying or naying that, you know, what your process is, but that's what we are asking for. So however you do that, if we can, we really want to keep the ones that we got. We're continuously, you know, just losing folks here and there for various reasons. And then, you know, like you all have said as well, some incentive maybe for somebody else to want to do it. Most people don't have trouble getting off work, you know, taking a day off, but if they're making more money and it is a hassle for them, then at least they would make as much or maybe a little bit more, and the hassle of getting off work or having to use a day of annual leave or whatever might be worth it to work the polls for them or for us. So that, whatever we need to do to look at getting those numbers approved, you can let me know, okay?
So if I'm hearing you right, we're still short 1 in Flat Ridge, 2 in Troutdale.
Yeah.
But we're gonna be able to keep all of the precincts open for the November election if we can.
Unless something happens that more people have to say, no, I can't do it. And then alternates would come into play.
But in order to keep those, to keep what staff or volunteers that you do have, it's an additional $10,000.
Yeah, that's what we're asking for. So.
Thank
you.
Mr. Chair. Yes. Now, you said that Ms. Gayheart had already.
She had already added 10, so this is another 10.
Another 10.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. The mileage, and like I said, part of that is for mileage. We had looked at kind of the norm and we reworked, and I've had a lot of other folks with the any category that are gonna be doing a lot more traveling. So we want to be able to, of course, compensate for that, and we're looking at November in this fiscal year, we're looking at November, and we're looking at the potential for June primary next year as well, when we're plugging in those numbers.
You reimburse at the state rate.
Oh, for mileage, yeah. And I don't have that right off the top of my head.
Mr. Chair. Yes. I think we need to do whatever we need to do to keep the precincts open, but is it possible you could present us with a budget of where how you came up with the 10,000 and then the additional 10,000 and how it will be spent?
Yeah, I shared an email with my board members when we were looking at numbers, so I can just share that same email just on what I'm looking at as far as the dollar amounts and that kind of thing. I can just send that to Mitch or Bill and they can forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, we also had that special call meeting on the 25th with the 2 public hearings, if it need to be expedited.
We start early voting September 23rd. That's included those folks coming and working those 45 days. That's including the 15 an hour for them. So nobody will be getting paid for anything before that early voting schedule starts, just for reference, as far as how to go about everything.
Thank you.
Anyone have a question?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, is Lindsay Young, Ag Economic Development Director. And speak concerning the animals running at large. Is that correct?
Okay, I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to present this evening. On behalf of the Grayson County Agriculture Advisory Committee, a recommendation regarding animal trespass. Slide, please. All right. So the issue, the main issue is that there is an increase in citizen concern due to livestock trespass. Calls to the extension office and animal patrol or sheriff's office have increased over the last 5 years, with specific concern over repeated animal trespass or livestock trespass. Citizens brought these concerns to the Agriculture Advisory Committee members and requested recommendations to help alleviate the repeated livestock trespass. So therefore, discussions within the Agriculture Advisory Committee began in August of last year, August of 2021. right after I started. for lunch. So our recommendation, after lengthy discussion within the advisory committee and with the county attorney, Steve Durbin, it was decided to create an ordinance to regulate and prohibit animals trespassing or running at large on public highways and property of others. So the key purpose of the ordinance, which I believe is in the packet, correct, Linda? Okay. The key purpose of the ordinance is to give the sheriff increased authority to enforce livestock trespass that could pose a significant public safety threat if those animals are frequently allowed to run at large, particularly on roadways. And just to clarify, the term running at large implies uncontrolled, unsupervised animal movement versus controlled herding of animals across a public road from one facility or field to another. So the main, and I know this is a little bit small, but the main points of the ordinance are that the Grayson County Board of Supervisors would acknowledge that allowing animals to trespass and run at large on public highways in Grayson County constitutes a threat to the health, safety, and public welfare of the citizens of Grayson County. It shall be a violation of law for the owner or keeper of any animal or fowl, except for dogs, cats, or monkeys, to allow or fail to prevent such animal or fowl from trespassing on the property of others or from running at large upon public highways in Grayson County. And owner or keeper of animals or fowl must be notified in person or in writing that the animals or fowl were trespassing on the lands of another or running at large on the public highways. This ordinance does not in no way contradict state law governing division line fences and who is responsible for paying for division fence upkeep. Nor does this ordinance in no way change Grayson County's status from fence out to fence in. In summary, the Agriculture Advisory Committee feels this is the best compromise between protecting the rights of the animal owners from undue liability related to infrequent accidental livestock trespass, which a lot of us in this room know happen. You've got animals, you can't keep them where they are all the time. And protecting the rights of non-livestock owners or the public from repeat habitual livestock trespass. So our next steps, or what we're requesting, is a public hearing for the ordinance titled An Ordinance of the Grayson County Board of Supervisors regulating and prohibiting animals trespassing or running at large on public highways. And please note, if this ordinance is approved and signed, it would not become effective for 12 calendar months from adoption. If you have any questions, I'm probably going to turn it over to Kevin Sperlin. The sheriff was supposed to be here, but he must have had something come up because Kevin and the sheriff have actually been the ones that have been fielding all of the complaints and the calls up until today. So, questions, please.
Yeah, Mr. Bill.
Why is it 12 months? Is that a state thing or?
Oh, actually, Kevin came on. He's the one that thought of that.
Yeah, that, thank you for hearing this proposal. That was actually something I thought about on the way home one evening when we were considering this ordinance. If we made this effective immediately, there would be a lot of people that need to build fence quick. And so 12 months gives them time to do that, secure fencing contractors, secure materials. Frankly, I think 12 months might even, that could potentially not even be enough time, but given the conditions we're in right now. But basically, that's why we did that. Give people time to get fences fixed.
I'm curious how this is gonna happen. We're a fence out county. But this ordinance essentially requires you to fence them in. How is that?
Yeah, so the way that the ordinance is written, it does not effectively change us to fence in. We had a proposal that the verbiage was fence in, which actually puts the liability more squarely on the animal owners. And technically in fence in that scenario, if you look in the state code of Virginia, and of course, I'm not a lawyer, so, don't take this as any kind of legal advice. Just in reading the state code, the big difference is fence in, the county is saying that a property line is all that has to be crossed, not a physical barrier, for there to be the potential for damages or liability, okay? So in fence in, a neighbor can basically say anytime that they have damages, that an animal gets out, that they can go and sue for damages. And so what we did not want to do is pit neighbor against neighbor. And, we've got more people coming into the county now, new residents, new landowners. And we didn't want enforcement, policing of this to be in the hands of the public. So there is that difference.
Okay. The fence outlaw's been here since the late 1700s. I think everybody on this board owns livestock one way or another. We all want to keep our animals in. Is this just to give the sheriff authority to be able to address habitual offenders? We have county law that says fence out. And then the county ordinance, it says you can be assuming there's a fine structure or something for habitual offenders. Did the county attorney help with this?
He wrote the
He
ordinance.
wrote
He wrote the whole ordinance.
we can remain a fence out, but still.
Yes, because that was never an option in the discussions.
I can tell you that the first draft we received from the county attorney read like fence in. And that question was raised, and he said, yeah, basically that's what this ordinance is. And that's not what our committee wanted. So we sent it back before we came to this recommendation.
Is there a certain point that a farmer or animal owner is elevated to an habitual offender? I mean, is that the discretion of the sheriff, the court?
Yes.
I know with habitual offender, which it's not now, and the guy down the influence level or suspended, had 3 offenses, and so. So it's at their discretion, so there's no.
And I don't know if that's something, as you take up or consider this proposal, obviously this is a proposal. So as you all look at this, take public comment, it can be tweaked and there'll be questions. I'm sure the county attorney will be the best person to answer those questions. But, nothing that is set in stone. If you don't like the way it is, it's certainly subject to change or not even adopted.
I mean, it's an issue, and we've got to address it. Nobody wants their animals to be out, and if you don't care if they're out, there needs to be some way to be able to address that. Christmas trees and cattle are, that's our #1 economic driver. Folks moving in who don't like either one of those, but I feel like we have to do something to be able to give the sheriff some authority to address the habitual offenders who do not care if their animals are in or out. So I know the ag committee's been working on this for a long time, and it's a kind of a tough subject to read. Thank you guys for the presentation.
If I may, I'll point out that that ag committee is made up of livestock owners, Christmas tree growers, public citizens, governmental officials. It's a representative of all the people, beekeepers, and all the concerns, folks that will be impacted directly by this ordinance. So.
You keep your notes in.
Had a little bit of issue here last couple weeks. My line fence, I think I finally got it fixed.
You keep guns in, you can explain to everybody how to keep some else.
What needs to happen? Do we need to call for a public hearing?
There'd have to be a motion for a public hearing for discussion on the matter, and if approved by vote, then it'll go to public hearing. Can we do that the 25th, or would that be kind of a little short?
Oh, you need to wait till.
I mean, the public, no, the public hearing,
You have to advertise it 2 times.
2 times. Okay.
What's the time exactly?
25th, I don't think
There's not enough time because. the
Okay.
deadline's already
you'd have to carry over to the August meeting.
Yes, it can carry.
That would be as soon.
Can we have the public hearing in conjunction with the board of supervisors meeting?
Yes.
And all that? So if I make the motion for a public hearing for this ordinance, we have plenty of time. If we wait till the 25th, we don't. So I make a motion to set a public hearing on the ordinance of not fence out, but giving the sheriff authority to address mental affairs.
Okay. First, in discussion. Mr. Anderson, you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, all right.
What are we doing on the 25th other than this ordinance?
The
You talking
personal
about-
property ordinance,
Yeah, is that July the 25th also?
yeah, the personal property, that's because of our advertising with the paper and everything. If we are going to provide that break on the personal property, that would have to be on the 25th now. And then, but this issue, in order to advertise and meet the legal requirements, would have to be carried on the August regular monthly meeting.
Okay.
So any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I guess we should probably do a roll call since we're doing, Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy. Mr. Bill. Also, thank you. I like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next would be under old business. Jada Black with an update on the abandonment of Greenhouse Road and Sweetwater Road.
Good evening. Thank you very much for putting on the agenda. I wanted to get this to the board just so that I would know how to proceed. So, Ms. Linda, did we share this information with the board? I did. So you've got a chance maybe to look at it. I apologize to you earlier, but I wanted to just debrief you on where we're at so far. Since the time of May 12th at your regular board meeting, the board had requested that the administration and staff start the process for the abandonment. And since that time, administration and planning staff have received numerous emails and telephone calls in regards to Sweetwater. So prior to the process of the abandonment, which would be the resolution of intent and the notice in the paper for 30 days, I wanted to verify I want to provide to you what I've already been given to see whether or not the board still wanted to address that issue. Regarding greenhouse, we've only received one comment from a young lady. She sent that, I believe, to the Board of Supervisors and was also copied, I think, BDOT on it. It looks like it may have came to the board on the 11th of July. And she was also not in favor of the closure of the greenhouse. It was a thoroughfare for between Peach Bottom and Powerhouse, indicating that they road closures if something was happening on the other end, and it possibly take about 10 miles extra around. So knowing these things, I wanted to see what the board would recommend staff to do.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Anderson.
can I speak?
Yes, sir.
Since that meeting, I had opportunity to ride out to Sweetwater and travel out that road. And I, like several of you all, have probably gotten a lot of emails and calls regarding that road, none of which have been in favor of closing the road. After I drove out there and looked at the road, there's residents on that road, and that road crosses over to another existing road. So when I rode out there and looked at it, it made no sense why we would close that road. The presentation we were given was well put together, but I guess I just misunderstood some of the key points on the presentation. But that road goes all the way through, and there's homes on the road. I think there's a home planning to be built on the road currently. And I know folks receive physical therapy services out on that road from home health and things like that. So I just wanted to give you my input. I don't think it makes any sense that we would close that road after I had rode out there and looked at it firsthand. That's just my take.
Okay. Mr. Bell?
Does the VDOT say if there's no opposition, we can close the road, but if there's opposition, we shouldn't close the road? But that's what.
Pretty much what's gonna happen, if we go through the public hearing, we spend the money for advertisement, we have a massive amount of people here in objection, they're not gonna close it anyway.
Okay. So I'm talking. I know all the roads that we've ever closed, there was no opposition at all.
Yeah, the last one we done for Mr. Deal out on Curry Street, that was just a vacated piece of road that no longer, existed in use other than for his personal use. So it made the most sense to go on and vacate that.
We talking about greenhouse too, or just?
I would like for you to give me some direction. I do know in her email, she did indicate that she would be sending around a petition. I would suggest though, because it's not as known from a standpoint of having as many emails and telephone calls as we've already received for Sweetwater. Should you want to pursue the abandonment, I will go on and formalize the intent to abandon. But one thing I would really like to do is also, we have the ability to post signage on the road. I don't feel that everybody gets notified in that aspect. So we can do the signage on the road, or we can do the newspaper ad, or we can do both. But we have to do that for 30 days.
Okay, Chair, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we abandon the idea to abandon Sweetwater.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second. I think we got too much opposition and like you say, they not even do this. And we can't tell VDOT really what they can do, what they can't really. Well, people think we can, we pay the road, but
I understand.
Okay, we have a motion before the board and a second to abandonment process, I guess.
We got a question before we just completely abandon it. Is it possible we could table this until the next one, so each of us have a chance to go out there and look at it, and see if there's an alternative to helping this hash figure situation out? And maybe we don't, if we're doing greenhouse and Sweetwater at the same time, but I think the motion on the table is just for Sweetwater.
That's correct.
I'm not gonna.
Well, Mr. Ivy, I went out there and I looked at it. And her house, so
Too, and I'm sorry I haven't done it at this point, but.
well, the thing is, I couldn't see any solution that we could offer this lady. Her house is on one side of the road, her building's on the other side of the road. And my understanding when they purchased the home, that was the way it was. But there's several people beyond her house on that road that would be affected. And it might be a little futile, but if, I think we could put that one to rest today.
Further discussion? Okay, having a motion before the board, second. No further discussion. Call for a roll call vote. Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Adams? Aye. Mr. Belton? I also aye. Okay, concerning the other issue regarding greenhouse.
I would agree with Mr. Ivy on this. What we could table that. It's been several years since I've been on that road. Give us a chance to go out and look at it and see. There again, it's going to be like I think Mr. Belton said. If we're going to have enough people come out of the woodworks, it's not going to get done anyway, and we're going to spend time and resources on the process. So therefore, I make a motion that we table greenhouse.
I have a second.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion?
What was the reason for shutting down the greenhouse?
It was something that Mr. Camp wanted to bring up.
Property, I guess where it runs through the property already. Desired to have it closed. I know a lot of people that come out of the Pine Mountain section use that as a cutoff and a short. I use it a lot of times, shortcut to Independence.
Does it state maintenance?
It's a secondary road.
It has a stream that runs through it that oftentimes, you have to forge. So. All right, so no further discussion. Roll call vote. Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Ivy? Aye. Mr. Belton? I also aye. Thank you. Thanks, Greg. Okay, I believe concerning the ordinance to prevent animals to run at large, we've already covered that with the approval of the public hearing for the August regular meeting. And next would be ordinance for public hearing approval of personal property. Mr. Paul, did you want to speak on that point?
not really.
Okay.
Thanks, Greg.
And I would say that jokingly,
I think the only thing this ordinance is, what you all are gonna do is to approve advertising for the public hearing on the ordinance to provide the tax relief or refund credit, how you want to talk that we talked about last month and talked about now for several months. But, I think what to do tonight, and I think you all have a copy of the ordinance, that you want to advertise the ordinance today, and there it is. Anything else?
I think that will cover. Any motion to proceed with the public hearing?
So moved.
Okay, have a motion before the board. Do I have a second? Second. Okay. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote. Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Ivan? Mr. Belton? Also aye.
Thank you.
Okay, which brings us to the mutual aid between Grayson County Sheriff's Office and Allegheny.
Yes,
the staff have that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a renewal of an agreement that's been in place in the past between Grayson County and Allegheny County, North Carolina, for mutual assistance. And so what we're doing is just we're renewing that existing contract. I'd be glad to read the whole thing, but if you, I hope you don't.
I think the members have had the opportunity to review it. It's in their packet, so. I believe if everybody's good. we'll do that.
I make a motion to renew the mutual assistance agreement between Grayson and Allegheny.
Okay, we have a motion before the board. Do I have a second?
It's not changed since years and years we've done this.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Belton? Also aye. Brings us now to the board appointments.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, several of these would be, as I step out of the role, and the board has indicated that Mr. Smith will be the interim, then recommendation is that he take my place in those board situations. So those would be Bristida, CPMT, the Regional Improvement Commission, which is the newly formed group of counties that are going to receive money from the casino in Bristol, Virginia. They had formed a group to talk about how the money could be used, and, which is primarily focused on education. And that's it for the additional roles for Mr. Smith. And then for the Grayson County Senior Advocacy Committee, Nancy Liebrick, term expires on August 10th, 2022, and she will continue to serve if it's the will of the board. Kate Irwin, term expired on July 10th, 2022, and she would like to continue to serve. And John Fant's term expires on 8/10/22. Do we know, Linda, whether? Okay. Let's see. The only other one is the Virginia Carolina Water Authority, 4-year term. Chris Morgan's term expires on June 30th, 2022, and he is willing to serve.
Okay. Everyone's indicated a willingness to continue on these boards with, you say maybe we don't have an acknowledgement, Mr. Fant. I'm not sure. Okay. Perhaps we could table that one till the next meeting if board chair would entertain a motion to accept the.
So moved.
Okay, I have a second.
Second.
All in favor, signify, Mr. Anderson, roll call vote.
Aye.
Mr. Melton. So aye. Okay. Which brings us to the county administrator's report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Tracy Cornett to give you an update on the Whitewater project that's going on in the western part of the town.
Good evening, good to have you with us.
Thank you. So Mr. Shepley asked me if I would just spend just a few minutes to, I'm sure you all have heard that Whitewater Charlotte is coming to Grayson County. And he wanted me to give you an update on what we have learned about that process. First of all, the initial contact, we found out that Whitewater was coming to Grayson when the public did. We didn't know anything about that. It was just as much a surprise to us as it was to anyone else. So the first thing that I did when I heard that they were coming through the media and press releases was I reached out to them and made a phone call. I couldn't get much information. So we sent an email to just a generic info email. And a couple of weeks later, their brand director named Jesse Hyde reached out to us and said that he would like to meet with us and kind of update us a little bit. So this past week on Tuesday, Mr. Shepley, Jada Black, myself, Christian Cook, who is the tourism support specialist, and Mr. Smith was in there for part of that meeting. We were able to participate in a Zoom call with him and with another gentleman, and his name was Jeff. I don't know if he ever gave us his last name. But they gave us their current plan and they told us just a little bit about their business. They are a not-for-profit organization that encourages outdoor recreation focus. Their vision is to extend the opportunities that they have in Charlotte to outlying areas. And I don't know how much you know about what they do in Charlotte, but they have a Whitewater Center there where they train Olympians. And they offer all different kinds of outdoor recreational opportunities. We were told that Whitewater Grayson would be based on a prototype for Pisgah, which is in Western North Carolina, and for the Santee down in South Carolina. And so if you want to know more about what ours is going to look like, you can go to their website and look at those two prototypes, and ours would be very similar. The first property that they purchased is around 120 acres up on Pond Mountain. It's very near, I don't know if you've ever been up to the tri-state marker where Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia meet, but it's very near that area. The next property over, there's a barn there that will need to be demoed and two old log cabins that they're currently restoring. Their current plan is for this spring, they plan to offer some accommodations in those log cabins, and then to offer guide services and equipment rentals. Some of the activities will take place throughout Grayson County. For example, they may take groups into Grayson Highlands, but the plan is to mainly focus on the property that they own. They have a vision for the future to host major races there, competition, corporate retreats, weddings, to build more accommodations. And by that, they don't have a set in stone plan of what those accommodations would be, but those would be more rustic type accommodations. And they want to add more of a retail component up there in that area. Like I said, most of their activities will take place on campus, but some might take place off campus. Then just recently, a couple of weeks ago, they acquired another 92 acres from the farmer family down on Dollinger Road, which is not very far from the property that they already have. I don't know if you've been up there, but when you turn to go right to go up to Pine Mountain, if you turn left instead and go out that way, that's where they acquired their additional 92 acres. There's an 1860s huge white house there that they plan to renovate and do something with it. I don't think they know exactly what they're going to do with it. One of the neat things that we found out when we spoke with them is that next month, you guys will be hearing a presentation from David Landis. He is from village to village, and they developed a bike route for us here in Grayson County, which will go live August the 5th. And he will speak to you more about that at the next board meeting. But it is a gravel bike trail that will connect the Creeper Trail in Whitetop to the New River Trail in Freeze. And it will go right by that Dollinger Road property, the 92 acres that they just acquired. And they got so excited speaking to us about that on Tuesday. The very next day, they contacted David Landis, and they've already met with him. In fact, he's in Grayson County now, up there at Whitetop talking to them. They love the concept of connecting those two trails and said it was genius, and they wish they had thought of it themselves. So they are going to partner with us on that. And we just found this out today to help us to promote that bike route that will go all the way through. In other words, basically what the intention of the bike route is to keep folks inside Grayson County. It will take, and he will tell you more about this next month, but it will take folks who are interested in this difficult biking, and it is through and by various businesses, Airbnbs, restaurants, retail shops, things from Whitetop all the way to Freeze. The only request that they had of us at this point, the road state maintenance ends just before you go up to their property. And they had asked about the possibility of extending state maintenance up into that, closer to their property. And so Mr. Smith and Jada Black are going to make a connection with VDOT for them so that they can make inquiries and see what they need to do next and see if there's a possibility that that might happen. So at this point, that's basically all we know about Whitewater. As more information becomes available, we'll be sure to keep you updated. Do you have any questions? I don't know if I can answer them, but if you have any, I'll try. Or I can find out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Tracy. Next, Mr. Chairman, it's my honor to introduce everyone to Ernest Tilda, our new director. Okay, Ernest and his wife, Hilda. Ernest is our new IT director, and he is already doing a fantastic job for us in this first week. And he's coming in all guns blazing, and so we're thrilled to have him on board. And he's got lots of ideas on how he can make it even more efficient in here and move us even closer to the ideal setup here in the IT arena. So welcome to you and your wife. And we're really glad to have you in Grayson County and to have you on board.
Thank you very much. We do appreciate it.
I wanted to just say a few words. This is the last board meeting that I'll be in this role. And so I wanted to first of all thank the board for all the support that you've given to me over the years. We've been through a lot of stuff together, and we've created a lot of positive momentum here in Grayson County. And it's thanks to the unity of the board and how much confidence you had taking a guy that had come from a healthcare background into a role like this, and I appreciate that very much. And if you think about it, I mean, during those 5 years, right in the middle of it, we had the COVID-19 hit, and so we had 2 years of operating in an emergency situation, and this team did a fantastic job of making sure that we didn't lose a step during that period of time. In fact, when most counties' situations got worse from a financial standpoint, I'm leaving you with the best financial, the county's in the best financial condition it's been in the last 10 years. And that's even going through that COVID crisis. We were lucky to have Paul Oil on board just at the right time to be able to help us through that whole situation. Let's see, we've got the Gate Center up and going and lots of activity occurring there. And it's becoming a hub of activity for clubs and organizations and for entrepreneurs here in the county. So that is really going great. And Lindsay's done a fantastic job with that. We really have expanded what we've tried to do in the county in the agricultural arena. And that was done through the Ag Advisory Committee, and with the addition of Lindsay in that role, we looked for that whole effort to expand greatly in the future. Tourism, same thing with Tracy on board and all that she's doing, and we're looking to see great things from tourism. We've already seen great things. We want to even see more as she continues to expand what she's got going on in that particular area. And again, we're looking to expand parks and recreation to become a countywide initiative. So we're excited about that. But I think the greatest achievement that I can leave you with is the team. And I think this team is just really outstanding. And one of the things I'm proudest of is the leadership of the women that we have in the county. With Jada and Tracy and Lindsay and Linda, and Lisa's not here. Lisa's on vacation, but certainly include Lisa in that mix. But all the leadership that we have, but I'm really proud that they've stepped forward and provided a role model in the county. So thank you all for that. And thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate that. I want to thank my Linda and Mitch. I think this says it. And I hope you guys will give Mitch every opportunity to vie for this role in the future. And thank you. I appreciate it. That's it.
Would have liked to maybe done a little bit more elaborate presentation to you and tell you how much the board and the citizens of Grayson County have appreciating you being here. You have indeed been here at a time when we've had to navigate through uncharted water with this pandemic. I know that when you first signed on, this had never been your arena, and then seemed like things were just going really good, and then the pandemic kind of put a hamper on us, and I guess everybody in the entire state.
Sure.
But we do appreciate your service to the county, and because of the kind of man you are in your humbleness, I know you didn't really want much of a fanfare or whatever, but the members of the board kind of heard through a little bird that there might be this place called Carolina Ale House or something.
Oh, yeah.
That might be something winner you would be interested in. So,
What you're doing there.
on behalf of all the members of the board, I'd like to present you this
All right.
gift certificate.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully you and your family can enjoy it.
We will, absolutely.
And remember our gratitude.
Well, thank you all. I appreciate it very much. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody signed up to speak?
Some guy named Larry Bubble.
Okay. We appreciate you too, Larry.
Thank you. I know we're supposed to give name and address, Larry Bolt, 853 Blue Ridge Road, Independence, Virginia. And the address is an important part of it, I think. So I'm here speaking for myself, but I've got a lot of people that agrees with me. None of them really asked me to do this, but I feel like I'm speaking for several. And I want to talk to you for a moment or two about tractor trailers and the issue that we're having. It's basically out of one company called Western Express. It's out of North Carolina. And they're going from North Carolina to Whitfield. They get off of 77, which, you know, if you stayed on 77, you could go pretty much right to Whitfield on that. But they get off of 77 at Elkin, get 21 north. And then they get over my way and they turn up Big Ridge Road to get to Whitfield. And y'all are pretty familiar with that area, I think, and that is not a direct route. And what happens, they get stuck. And in the past, I know of at least 6 times in the past 2 months that we've had tractor and trailers up there. About a month ago on a Saturday, I was out close to the road and there was one started up and I got him turned around before he went on and got in trouble. I was able to open some gates and get him back to my field and turn around. This past Saturday, I was out in the field working quite a ways from the road and I looked and see a tractor and trailer going up. In about 10 minutes, I was through and back to the truck. I thought, I'll just ride up the road and see where he went. Well, if you're familiar with that area, on past my road, the next road it cuts off is Pheasant Run that goes down to Stone's Chapel. And he was stuck in the first curve. You go down the first curve, bears back to the left. His whole trailer was off the road and truck up on his wheels and got to overturn. So we got him some help and stuff. If you go on across Big Ridge, there's one real hairpin curve, if you know what I'm talking about. There's been stuck in there on a Sunday morning at the end of May. One time they was on up past my house where Golden Eagle turns in, that subdivision with the rock columns. That the folks up there got one stopped, and but in order to get him turned around, they removed the mailboxes, got the mailboxes out and pulled the post out so they could get him turned around and back out. So anyway, they're getting stuck in curves, and when that happens, they have to get Randy Lineberry, and I'm not trying to cut business with Randy Lineberry at all. But when this happens, roads can be blocked for hours. Yes, and I think that's a safety issue. And if it's fire department, rescue, police, or whatever, it could really cause a problem getting to the other side because they can't get through. So anyway, and there may be other parts of the county of this problem too, but just in our little area up there, it's turning into quite a problem. And I just heard that you all cannot tell VDOT what to do, but I think you can ask, and I'm asking you all to ask VDOT if they would consider putting up a sign where Big Ridge cuts off at 21, basically telling them don't go up. And also one where Pheasant Run cuts off a Big Ridge down, don't go down that way. To see if that could prevent it. Now, all these guys are saying that's what their GPS is telling them to do. And but they don't realize they get off the interstate at 21, and then they turn off the secondary road, and then they'll even go down to a more narrow secondary road. But they follow that GPS and they'll end up getting stuck, the road's blocked. So I'm asking you all if you all could possibly contact VDOT and request a sign to be put up at 2 places at least. Yeah.
Chair, entertain a motion to, we have staff for that concern and request on behalf of the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, I'm like emotionally have staff. That is in the district of, is that Elk Creek?
That's Elk Creek District.
It's Elk Creek. Magisterial District, not the Hartley Wilson local district now, but we are Elk Creek District.
Second, okay. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Allen, Mr. Belton. I also aye. Okay, having no other persons signed up to speak on public comment. And no one ahead of time notified me of need to speak on the supervisor time. To adjourn.
May I ask a question, please? Underneath the informational items, underneath the Public Works large item pickup report, I'd just like to share a piece of information that you may find interesting. The fact of it is, we had, for the Wildlife Conservation Club, we had a visitor from the Virginia Outdoor Foundation. They have easement on our property, and we're discussing things that we were doing, including the river cleanup aspect. And came up about how much help the large item cleanup has helped with the river condition. And this gentleman lives in Washington County, and they're having issues because they charge for every tire that comes, citizens wanting to give them whatever, they have a charge. And they're finding tires being thrown in the river as opposed to paying for it. So that's kind of a hats off to the board for adopting that particular type of policy, that it does help.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it has been a good partnership. Working with our conservation groups and the county working together. Okay. Motion to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Good to have everyone with us tonight.
Regret that.